Hello, darlings. Welcome back. Today we are discussing Westworld Episode 2, and I thought I would give my best of Maeve impression. I just really love Maeve, and if they ever need someone to do a voiceover for her, well, I think that I've got it down packed, don't I? Please send that directly to HBO. I will actually email this to my HBO contact and tell her that I am available for Maeve voice. Now my voice is cracking. Anyway, darlings, today we are discussing episode 2. Anyway, today we're discussing episode 2 of Westworld season 4. Yeah, we're on season 4, my goodness. And what a fun episode this was. I am enjoying it, and it's funny because I keep thinking about season 3, and I was like, I just didn't vibe with season 3, but in a weird way, this feels like it feels like season 3 primed me for whatever was to come in season 4. So you're like transitioning out of the parks, and now we're kind of in the real world, except for we're kind of also going back to the parks. But all that being said, yeah, I had a fun time dissecting this episode, and thanks when you guys leave comments. It really helps me to kind of get more of a big picture. I really want to shout out Leanne. I hope I'm saying your name right. You left a wonderful comment on the last video for episode 1. And I just appreciate that, because again, these comments and these theories really just help me as I'm watching. So let's get into our episode 2 discussion. So I want to kick things off starting with kind of the man in black and talking about especially this whole plan with the senator. And I can't believe I forgot about that, to mention that in the last episode, because May found out that they were going to be visiting the senator and she was like, okay, we gotta go visit him. Sorry, I forgot about that. There's just a lot going on in these episodes. And so eventually, you know, we kind of kick off the episode visiting the senator. We find out that, you know, basically he's been converted into a host, him and his wife, or, you know, I believe the senator is dead. He has a host replica of him, and the wife has a host replica of herself, but she is technically or was still alive. So we start getting more breadcrumbs about why, you know, Man in Black had to visit the senator, and we know that there is some sort of loophole that he needs in the state legislature. And as well as we see when the president or the vice president comes to visit him on the golf course, he's talking vaguely, the Man in Black is talking vaguely about wanting to operate again, and, you know, vice president is like, well, you know, you can maybe do that stuff offshore, but domestically, no, you know, not on US soil. And we find that, well, why is he talking about this stuff? Because he wants to open a new park in the United States again. So as a bit of a hometown celebration, I'm a little happy to see we've got a park taking place in Chicago. At least that's what I saw. It was, you know, going into the, as they say, the Golden Age park. And it looks really cool. Just from the trailers, it looked really cool. We didn't really get to see too much beyond what they showed us in the trailer. So I'm excited to see what it looks like coming up in episode 3. You know, I can imagine, you know, the speakeasies and the mobsters, you know, kind of like the whole Al Capone. And I don't know, Flapper Girls, does that exist between this, or is a little bit, you know, all pre-Depression era, if I remember my US history correctly. But I also just want to shout out Thandie Newton again, in that one scene where her and Caleb are in this, you know, club, and they're finding out what's going on, and then it starts moving, and they're like, WTF, and she knows exactly what's going on because, oh, we're about to get sent to a park. And it was just the look on her face that she was playing Maeve, and this kind of like, it was like a sinking feeling, like, oh no, this is happening all over again. That girl is bad. She is such a great actress. I really just want to shout her out for that. And while we're at it, I want to put some points on the Braggin' Rights scoreboard, only because I did, in a way, between those two trailers, piece together that whatever the scene was when they were, you know, going to the theater, going to the opera, they're all dressed up fancy, and the thing says welcome, and I was like, I was pretty sure that, you know, they were going to be on their way to a park, and I was like, well, you know, they're not wearing the same clothes, but maybe, you know, you have to get dressed up for the parks, and you have to assimilate into the culture, or, you know, whatever the vibe is for that park. So I was hesitant about that theory, but I'm glad I got that one right, so just put that on the scoreboard. But all that being said, the big question here is, why open another park? What's the bigger story here? You know, again, this is the Man in Black, but being puppeteered by Hale, evil Charlotte, what I've been calling her. And so in order to understand why they're going to be making, or why they're letting people into a new park, I think we need to understand what's going on with Charlotte. So in this episode, we actually finally do see Charlotte, Hale, and to our surprise, or maybe not surprise, actual human William is dead. Apparently you can get your own throat slit, and you know, you can still live to tell the tale. Just a nice soak in the Bacta tank will fix that. But it's interesting, right? Because she's keeping him alive for reasons. She clearly finds him very valuable. But I also think it is a kind of risky move to keep him alive because obviously he doesn't want the host taking over. He actively hates it, you know, obviously being a human. So I can only imagine, you know, something goes wrong and he gets out and then, well, Charlotte, Hale, you done goofed. So that part was interesting, and Charlotte has just kind of dropped these very, very vague kind of hints about what she wants to accomplish basically this season, or what her grand master plan is. So the clues are, and I wrote them down, she's talking about, you know, she's like, I have plans for your kind, aka the humans, and she wants her people to have personalities. She wants them to kind of grow and develop on their own, or you know, that's kind of the general idea, I believe, as well as, you know, talking. She also mentioned it's too hard to just take out all the humans. I'm assuming she means kind of one by one, you know, kind of it's you know, it's billions of people on this earth, and to kind of take them out one by one, I get it, it's gonna take a long time. So clearly we do know that at least she's able to use her RoboFly army, as I'm assuming, to somehow, you know, take control of the humans. You know, I don't know how that particularly works, how the flies get in and they work their magic, but they do, and we've seen it already with the businessman, and as well, like I mentioned, we've seen it with the senator's wife. So it sounds like she's using the flies kind of just as this preliminary way to start taking control of the humans, or at least maybe kind of the first part of her plan. And then the next step, I assume, would be to use the humans to build this new world that she is trying to create, you know, and like basically enslaving humans. So all that being said, it begs this big question of why are we inviting humans back into the park? You know, all logic should say they don't like the way that humans treat the host, and they don't like this and they don't like that, but obviously some ulterior motives going on. And when I asked myself that question, I was like, well, if you think about it, it's kind of like one big lure, right? You set up this attractive thing, everyone's still kind of curious. Even after the host uprising, you know, people are still gonna be like, what is it like at the parks? So listen, you catch more flies with honey, right? So I'm assuming that they are using the parks as a way to bring in a mass amount of humans, and then at that rate, you know, she's got them in the palm of her hands. Hale can unleash her fly army, and boom, now you are able to control all these humans. And not only that, but because you are in a park, it is so very hush hush, right? You are secluded, you are in the middle of nowhere, and no one, you know, would know or be the wiser if that were the case. So I think that if that is the reason that they are building this park, then I think it's pretty ingenious, or at least I have to give myself a pat on the back. I think it's pretty ingenious. But that being said, if you guys have theories about why this park is being built, what its function is, I would love to hear it. And this is all coming off the top of my noggin. I don't like browsing the subreddits and stuff like that, just because I don't want like to come across any real spoilers. But if you guys do have anything that you've come across or that you've learned or theorizing about, let me know down in the comments, because I am so curious to see where this is going. All right, and as our part 2, which I am claiming as the Dolores part of this review discussion, some things went down with Dolores this episode, and it's getting kind of freaky, you know? So she basically got the obituary for Peter, the guy who can see her and, you know, you're ruining my life, blah, blah, blah. And she discovers that Peter, in his will or whatever, left money to a mental hospital for a, like, wing to be built in his honor. Now, the weird thing is that when she finally gets there, she discovers that A, the mental hospital is empty, which, you know, no one is living there, being inhabited in that hospital, and then 2, the wing has already been built under his name. So this is the big kind of glitch in the Matrix thing, like, you know, the part that you're not supposed to see, the part like when Vision goes outside of Westview and all of a sudden people are moving weird, and, you know, it's like, well, I didn't really work on the outskirts, so you shouldn't really go there. And then on top of that, you have this whole thing about the tower, and the homeless guy adds when she walks past him this time that he can hear the song coming from the tower, and it's not just him, but the birds can hear the song too. Now this is where it kind of gets interesting, because Dolores sees that there are dead birds on the ground, and it's like, whoa, this is freaky. And I'm like, well, why do you often see a dead bird? Because they're flying into like a reflective glass building, they don't see it, and boom, you know, poor little birds are dead. But I think this also lends itself to another theory, and I want to shout out Leon again for mentioning this, is that, you know, what if Dolores, aka Christina, is living kind of in this future world where Hale has now built a kind of park, and as they described in the comment, it's like, okay, what if the tower is kind of like the equivalent of the mesa back in Westworld? And as I thought about that, I was like, oh yeah, that would really make sense, especially given this episode. Like, if these are birds, and let's assume that they're robo birds, you know, we can have robo animals out in the park, so they're robo birds, they are maybe kind of aware that the tower is there, but they can't physically see it or something like that. And, you know, they're crashing into this tower that, you know, seemingly shouldn't exist, maybe that they don't see. They're crashing into it anyway because it physically is there. It's just that everyone else in this environment is programmed not to see it, kind of like the mesa, right? You had that whole part where they had the rooftop bar on top of the mesa, and it was like, well, why can't the host see it? Well, because they were programmed not to. So if this is the correct theory, then it would kind of take down the whole, like, you know, Dolores is living in this virtual matrix idea. But I do like this idea that, you know, it's kind of too late for everyone in the past, that Charlotte has already carried out her evil plan, but there's still, you know, it's still not too late to kind of save the day. And I think this whole thing poses a big question of like, well, if Hale is building a, you know, essentially if this New York area is like a park for hosts, isn't it a little bit hypocritical of her to, you know, program a watchtower where that they can't see, and to have someone like Dolores be programming the NPCs just so that, you know, the environment is still rich? And, you know, it's basically one of those villain things where they're like, I know what's best for you, and, you know, they're trying to play God. It's like, it reminds me of Walt Disney's idea for Epcot, the Epcot community, where he was like, okay, y'all are gonna live in this perfect community, I'm gonna tell you what to do, and you can't say otherwise. And it's like, hey, Walt, you really can't do that. We all have free will here and autonomy. So I would love, if that is the way that this is going, I would love to see that hypocrisy addressed, because it's like, yo, you wanted the host to be free, you wanted, you know, to save them from humanity, and yet here you are basically doing the exact same thing. So things that make you go, So I think I'm gonna leave it there. What a huge mega episode, but I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that I didn't talk about, so let me know down in the comments. There's still this whole thing about why they need the servers down in the Hoover Dam, and I'm just gonna wait till we get more evidence about that before I start speaking on it, because it is just whew. So if you enjoyed this, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, so you know when the next video comes out. And hey, I actually did go to some parks in Los Angeles. I promise I treated the host very nicely. I went to Disneyland, I went to Universal Hollywood and Knott's Berry Farm, so I created a whole kind of merch haul video about that. You can see some of the cool stuff I bought. You might want to check out that video now, and well, anyway, I will see you in the next video, darlings. Bye.